So you mentioned meditation.
It's again awareness, attention. So when I was 18, I was ordained as a Buddhist monk.
Big Shiv, former monk and now personal trainer and wellness coach, music producer, and founder of Big Shiv Productions.
Many years ago, I would have limited that a lot and just said, I like to think about wellness as being about 1/3.
What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about getting old and working out?
I think part of it is what the person needs to do themselves, and part of it is what the people that love them do. You need to keep doing the things that you did when you were younger, but don't do less without joy, and it's not going to have nearly the impact that it would if you can just do it with enjoyment.
You mentioned having a high protein, low carb. And in terms of percentages, what does that look like?
I'm not going to send them right into a diet that's 100% different from what they're eating now.
In this episode of Tuition Journal, Big Shiv shares why the tuition we pay for health is the most important one we'll ever pay. And guess what? It's never too late.
Thank you so much, Shi, for taking time out of your day to be here with me. Yeah, you've been doing this for 2 decades. What exactly drove you to wanting to become
A coach? I think it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always been very active, and from the time I was a teenager, I started working with people, helping train my sisters and do all things like that. My very first personal training client was when I was 18 years old. And she was a middle-aged woman that wanted to train for like a bodybuilding show. And so we set off on a 4-month training progression to help her get conditioned and do all of that. And I just fell in love with the journey. And I think my whole life has kind of been focused around all the different aspects of a human being and like what wellness looks like in all those different facets, like mental and physical and emotional, spiritual, all of that.
what does success look like when you work with a person?
My goal for any client is always the same, and it's the best quality of life possible. That looks a little different for different people depending on what their situation is, whether they have disabilities or anything like that. But I always try to focus on best quality of life, right? So that may not always mean being the strongest person they can be.
What does that look like with regards to having the best quality of life?
I think that it's the whole person again, right? It's not just physical, it's emotional, understanding attachment styles and triggers and trauma rehabilitation, understanding the psychological approach to wellness and developing healthy relationships with food and exercise. So it's not something that's seen as a punishment, but something that's nourishing to the self. I think it entails sleeping well, eating well, exercising in the right way for your body, and having like a really custom tailored approach to your wellness, because no two people are created the same. They all have different genetic traits and different conditioning from their childhood. And I think everybody's wellness is going to look like a unique fit for them.
I like that. So I'm not sure this is how it all began for you, or like from the very get-go, you already started looking at health and fitness in that kind of way. At what point in your journey did you realize that like fitness and health in general, it's not just about just showing up at the gym and lifting heavy and all of that, but like just eating well, sleeping enough, and doing your exercise and all of that? At what point in the journey did that become clear to you?
I started really with a mental, emotional, and spiritual approach to wellness. So when I was 18, I was ordained as a Buddhist monk in Thailand, and I spent 8 months as an ordained monk before I derobed and went to India to continue studying yoga. My focus on physical wellness has always been from a spiritual and mental approach. And over the years, I just continued to sort of develop that, add to I was a yoga teacher first. That was my first, job, from age 18 to 25, my main focus was teaching yoga. There was a lot of people that I saw coming to yoga for physical wellness, that it was not necessarily the best approach for them, or not the only approach that would really help them, again, have their best quality of life, right? Some people were very flexible already, and they're just doing something they're already good at. And what they really needed was to strengthen, right? To focus on core strengths. They had lots of back pain, but they're just stretching all day. And sometimes one approach in itself is not enough to treat whatever is going on with a person. So very early on in my yoga teaching journey, I saw the need for a more comprehensive physical approach to wellness, right? And that's really what got me into weight training with myself in depth, and seeing how absolutely imperative and important weight resistance and lifting weights is to a human being's overall physical development, well-being, a balanced approach to strengthening imbalances that happen from the day-to-day.
So you mentioned being ordained as a monk. Why? What's the connection between that and being healthy and physical health and wellness in general?
So I noticed something that was incredibly impactful to me during my time as a monk. Right. We were not allowed to exercise as a means of self-discipline, right? And so I saw a lot of monks that were very hunched over, had very bad posture, were in a lot of physical pain, and just lived that way, right? And I immediately recognized that there was something huge missing there, right? And I've always been a bit of a play to the beat of my own drum kind of person. And I remember as a monk, I would wake up sometimes in the middle of the night because I have ADHD. I'm a very active person, and I just could not exercise. So I would wake up sometimes 10 p.m. and go run our temple stairs. There was 1,000 stairs leading up to the temple. So I'd run down, run back up, hopefully with nobody seeing me, and actually never got caught that I know of. But I would exercise almost in this defiance to rejecting the human body. I kind of innately, through my own meditation practice, I found that the distinction and the division between the mind and body is almost non-existent. The mind state and the way that we perceive things, our attitudes, our ability to focus on the present moment hugely impacts the physical body. And the things we do physically impact our mind so much that, to me, those two worlds started to blend together in a way that I couldn't ignore one of them and focus only on the other. Does that make sense?
So what would you say that experience taught you?
It taught me that there are a lot of boxes in the world. There are people that are bodybuilders. There are people that are yogis. There are people that are runners. And a lot of people think about themselves inside of some sort of box. They give themselves a title. They give themselves a set of words that they associate with, right? For this person, that she may be a runner. She's like, I'm a runner. That's what I do, right? But very rarely do we take the time to dissolve those boxes and walls and look at what do we need overall, right? On our personal journey, what are we lacking? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And how can we continue to build our strengths while addressing our weaknesses to the point where you can honestly say they're no longer a weakness for you, right?
So you work with different kinds of people, from athletes to students to elderly people and just your regular everyday guy, right? So what has working with these different groups of people taught you about the human body?
The most consistent lesson that I've learned is that our needs as human beings are very similar between each other. So when I have an 85-year-old client that cannot pick themselves up off the floor, and I've got an 18-year-old football athlete, the things they need physically are remarkably the same. They need to strengthen, they need to improve their mobility, they need to develop their inner focus, and probably most importantly, the inner desire to care for oneself. I think it starts with me caring for them, right? A lot of people hang around friends that don't necessarily support the best thing for them, right? They may hang out with their friends and go to the bar and get drunk, or, right? They're not necessarily around people a lot that are going to say, this thing that you're doing is really not the best thing for you. Maybe try this. It's very rare in our society that we ever interact with each other in that way. And I think that's how it starts. Like, I will have a client that comes to me to work out. Maybe they want to lose 10 pounds. It could be a very superficial result they're looking for. But I'll immediately start to address their diet. How's your sleep, right? How is your stress, like your mental health? And as I start to introduce a care and a focus on these things, because they may not even be thinking about their stress, they just want to lose 10 pounds. They start to feel what that attention looks like. Because at the end of the day, whatever we put our attention upon, that is what we'll focus on. That is what we will develop. So it starts with me caring for them and showing them this is how you care for your body nutritionally. This is how you care for your body physically, right? And then once they start to feel that inside, feel that change, that's what motivates them to do it themselves.
With regards to them being able to change these 3 things that you're very passionate about,
Yes.
how does that influence the course that you put them through?
I like to think about wellness as being about 1/3 physical, 1/3 mental, and 1/3 spiritual. I'm not always going to be able to work with every person on all of those aspects. Some people just come to me to be trained, right? To learn how to use a machine or to learn how to improve their squat form, right? And there's other people that come to me with a meditation focus, right? There's people that I just do meditation with. But over time, I try to introduce some of those other aspects of wellness to any of them, right? As long as they're open to it, as long as that's what they are looking for. And for me, it's 1/3 of each, right? So I'm always going to try to distribute my own attention, about 1/3 on the physical, 1/3 on the mental, and 1/3 on the spiritual. If I get really super involved in the physical and that's all I'm doing is training and even eating, right? Because that's a physical thing. And I'm really just focused on that, there's going to be other things neglected, right? So I really try to keep that as a primary thing. With most people, addressing exercise and diet is the gateway to wellness.
So you mentioned meditation. What's there?
It's again awareness, attention, right? Meditation is the conscious application of a person's ability to be aware of anything, right? There's meditation techniques that involve using mantras, right? Using special phrases. There's visual meditations that are focused on images and visualizing things. I was trained as a Vipassana meditator, okay, a Buddhist meditator. Vipassana is basically the ability to be aware of your current state, right? Your current situation inside your body, the breath as it comes in and goes out, the heartbeat, whatever is taking place, right? Right now in this moment, that's your focus. So it's not training your mind to not think. It's training the great power of the mind to be more focused upon the thing that you desire to be focused on. So much of our mental space is wasted by wishing we could focus on this thing or wanting to focus on this thing and our mind just going wherever it wants. So meditation is the practice of developing one's awareness and ability to focus, right? And it's incredibly impactful on every area of life. Like the more focused you become on the things that you want to focus on, the better you'll get at all of them. The more success you'll have at them, the greater wellness you'll achieve, right?
You've worked with an 80-year-old man. So tell me about that experience with him. Where did you start with him from, and where have you going him to?
His name's Dave. Shout out Dave. I started training him. He came into the gym one day and he's like, I need someone to help me. I was like, okay, what do you need help with? And he said, I fell yesterday and I was on the floor for 5 hours till someone found me and could help me get up. And it scared the crap out of me, right? And so for him, his goal was very specific. I need to know how to get up off the floor. I need to be strong enough to do that because, wow, that was a shocker, you know? So we started with building his mobility and building his strength, and he continued to have me as his coach. So of course I started to introduce diet changes to him. Are you getting enough protein? No, he's eating a banana per day or a bowl of cereal or something like that. So not getting hardly any protein. So he's not going to be recovering from our workouts well. He's sore for 4 days or 5 days after a workout. So I start to say, you need to have more protein. You need to do this, and that'll help you recover better. And over the course of a year, he got to the point where he's doing weighted squats. He's doing curl overhead presses. He's very mobile. He's going next week on a ice fishing trip with his friend. Stuff that he just couldn't even think of doing before because he was so vulnerable, right? His attitude and his demeanor has changed. Like he walks around confident and cheeky, and he's got spice back to him, whereas he was so afraid before because his physical body was so, it was putting him in a state of peril, right?
Right.
And I think once he started to have more of that physical wellness, his attitude and his mind and everything improved along with that. And I see that all the time with people. It's just amazing to see how much little changes over time can affect a person and how they feel about themselves so much.
What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about getting old and working out?
I think part of it is what the person needs to do themselves, and part of it is what the people that love them do, right? I think people often misinterpret care as being, why don't you sit there and let me do all of this for you? When really your grandma could probably use walking to the kitchen, right? Instead of you getting her that drink. Right. Even though it's an act, you're doing it out of love, right? But that little walking to and fro the kitchen is exactly what she needs to be healthier longer. Right? Maybe that's picking up something off the floor. Let me get that. You're an older person. I'll pick that out for you. Picking things up off the floor is what's going to maintain that mobility for them. So part of the thing is try to do more, because what you neglect, you lose, right? If you don't use it, you lose it, they say, right? So if you're not using mobility, if you're not going for walks, eventually you won't be able to walk when you want to. It's just the way it works, right? You could be 40 years old, and if you stop moving, when you want to move, you won't be able to. The body is designed to adapt to whatever resistance is applied to it. You need to keep doing the things that you did when you were younger, right? Maybe that's out doing. Sure, you're going to be careful. You're going to be cautious. That needs to happen. But don't do less, right? That's the first lesson. Do not do less. Stay active, stay moving, stay lifting things, stay challenging yourself. Because when people get older, they immediately sort of think they should stop challenging themselves. And that never happens. You could be 90 and still need to challenge yourself in every way.
That's really true, because like you find that in people in Okinawa, in Japan, for instance, people at 70 are like some of the youngest people in that part of the world, you know. So,
Yeah.
And the thing that keeps them alive quite a lot is just because they don't retire. Yes. And everybody just keeps doing it. And for as long as you're willing to keep moving. And what do you think is the biggest tuition that's there for people to pay when they neglect strength, movement, and recovery earlier in life? What's that lesson that they would learn like later on?
I think a lot of people get to that point, you know, like my client Dave that I was talking about, you know, he didn't notice that he couldn't get up off the floor until he fell. So a lot of times people have some sort of event that kind of shakes them up, right? It could be a hip replacement. They have some event and they're like, oh, I am not where I feel I need to be, right? That's really the key. Because if you feel you need to be doing something and you can't do it, you're going to feel your confidence is immediately impacted, right? So I think we need to be really honest as people about if you've let yourself rest, right, and relax, and you've gotten to a certain point where you're like, oh, I've lost capacity to do something. You can still get that back. It's never too late, right? You just start where you're at and start challenging yourself. Maybe today you can only walk 10 feet to the counter. Tomorrow, try to walk 12 feet. The next day, try to walk 15 feet. Or if we're talking meters, walk 7 meters the next day. Then eventually you're going to be able to walk around the block, right? Keep challenging yourself and you will find your physical condition improves at any age and in any condition. You see so many professional athletes, some of them that don't have any arms. They have an amputated leg, and they can still thrive and be incredibly healthy, active people. A lot of people have something happen to them and they take it as an excuse to not challenge themselves or to not improve where they're at. And I think the big lesson for all of us is that wherever we are, okay, whether you have 2 arms or no arms, or you've got diabetes, or you're 85 or you're 14, you have to challenge yourself to grow.
You often say that health problems can be reversed through wellness, right? So what kind of health problems are you often like talking about when you say that?
Many years ago, I would have limited that a lot and just said, it could be a person's weakness, physical weakness, right? It could be something like diabetes, right? That you can easily, massively affect through diet and exercise. Nowadays, I'd say there's very little that we can't reverse or impact in a positive way. Like I've had clients that have cancer and are in hospice care.
What's that again?
It's people die from cancer, right? There's people towards the end of their life and they can still improve their quality of life. They can still learn to meditate. They can still develop a better, healthier relationship with themselves, physically and mentally and spiritually. So I don't think there's ever a point at which we can't create really positive change by addressing wellness overall. I see people all the time with mental issues that are being positively impacted only through exercise, right? I see people that just change their diet a little bit. Like I have people that only use diet plans from me. They don't come to the gym with me. They don't do meditation. They want me to help them eat well, right? And their bodies get more healthy. Their minds get more healthy just from eating better. So I think wherever a person can start, that is where it's going to impact their health the most. It's like you can start anywhere,
You're approached by someone with diabetes. So how do you go about helping them? What does the typical process look like? So they're like probably like a 60-year-old diabetic.
I would immediately address diet with them. Stabilizing the blood sugar is so important. There's so little education out there about diabetes and the things that you can do through diet to really improve the condition. I would start there. Exercise is so important for diabetics. Someone 60 years old really needs to focus on exercise anyways. That's around the age that a lot of people start to slow their physical activity. They start to get up and down off the floor less often, right? They get more reliant on chairs, more reliant on doing less walking, doing less physical activity in general. So they really need to exercise. They need to focus on the diet. And those 2 things would be the first approaches. Diet-wise, I'm going to definitely focus on having a high-protein diet. a low carbohydrate diet that is not going to spike their insulin levels. It's going to give their pancreas a chance to rest and to recover and to adjust to the type of diet they're having.
You mentioned having a high protein, low carb. In terms of percentages, what does that look like?
I'm not going to send them right into a diet that's 100% different from what they're eating now. Because it's like if you have a dog and you switch their diet right away, you get them a brand new dog food, it often causes a digestive upset because there needs to be some sort of adjustment there, right? Same with exercise. You're not going to start with your heaviest weight on day one. You're going to build your way up to that. So with this diabetic client, I'm going to start probably with a 70% protein, 30% carb and fat based diet. And then slowly increase that to a very low carb state. The body produces ketones when our carbohydrates get low enough. Ketones are basically an energy source that the body produces when it doesn't have glucose to run on. And that can be immensely healing for the body overall. So in conditions like that, I have seen people really reverse, come off of their medications, with approval from their doctors, just by changing dietary guidelines. I've had people with, gout and that have suffered for years. I mean, some people a decade in agony, and just adjusting their diet is enough to remove that. So I think a lot of people underestimate how big the impact is, But again, with that person, I'm going to start really gradual, increase the amount of protein right from where it's at, and then slowly transition them. I typically do diet plans for 30 days. So they're going to be maybe on the 70-30 for 30 days. And then I'm going to increase it to 80%, right? For the next 30 days.
How long does it usually take for them to finally make that adjustment?
Most people struggle a lot, right? I'm a nutritionist. That's what I went to university for, right? Still, most people, you can give them a suggestion, they probably will not follow that. So I have learned over the years to take a very reserved approach with people. I'm not the type of person that's going to go and say, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. But when people ask for information, I'll give it freely. I'm not going to push my opinions or views on anybody. And sometimes it takes a while for people to come to a place where they're like, oh, I can just listen to this advice and try it. Sometimes it takes people a year to get. I've had people that have trained with me for a year and have just gotten to that point.
What is that experience of working with these different groups of people who kind of struggle and those who immediately get it? What's the lesson that you have firsthand experience with these two groups?
Invariably find that whenever they get to that point, whether it's 1 week or a year, within about 30 days of making that choice, they've already seen huge improvements, right? So this diabetic client, this hypothetical diabetic client that we're talking about, if they adopt that diet and they stick to it for 30 days, I have never seen anyone not come back to me and say, I can't believe the improvement. That's in 1 month. So in 3 months, in a year, it looks even more drastic. I really enjoy whole human being, whole person transformation. That is my calling in life, right? So my goal is to take a person from whatever state they're at and try to be whatever positive influence I can be upon them to become their best self.
So when it comes to helping people, you've done that with different groups of people. You've done it with people who just train for performance and for people who train for longevity. Mm-hmm. So how do these approaches differ?
That's a very good question. They differ a lot. I'll use an example of an NFL player that I trained, that was recovering from a shoulder surgery. And his goal was to have his arm in working condition to keep playing. So this is a very specific, very short-term goal. There's far less focus on him, for him, on things like diet and all these other things, right? I need to really work on these tendons and making sure that the joint is balanced, and really focusing on his performance, making sure that he's able to perform the specific job that he needs to at a specific time, right? In 30 days, he needs to be able to do A, and I need to make sure that happens. Someone who's got like more generalized wellness approach, we're not going to be doing any of that very specific stuff to start, right? The only reason we would do that is if someone has an injury that we're working on, or again, like a joint replacement. I get those all the time. People that have replaced a knee or replaced a hip, and they've done their PT for a few weeks, and then they just let them go. And their journey is really just starting, for just how to rebuild all of those muscles and get their body functioning well again. And I think those approaches differ so much, right? Whatever a person's goal is, I have to meet them there to some level, right? Even if this NFL player, I want his overall wellness, and I notice he's stressed out and he could use meditation, they're hiring me for a job at the end of the day. So I'm going to try to help them meet their own personal goal.
Which of the two groups excites you the most?
I would say the transformations, the overall people, the everyday people I meet that think this is their normal, like this is their best life to them.
Yeah.
And a year later, they can tell me, like, I can barely recognize that human being. Like, I've grown so much, I've changed so much in all these beautiful ways. There's nothing more inspiring to me than that. Like, that's where the real magic happens.
How do you help people develop that mindset so they go out there and like take good care of themselves?
I think it takes time and discipline to start, right? Because people don't just fall into that, right? So it requires some sort of time management. A planner is usually what I recommend for people. Schedule in your days that you're going to work out, and don't make excuses on those days, If that's 3 days a week and you're a busy parent and have a job and have all this stuff going on, that's cool. If you could do 4 days a week, you're going to be able to grow in some ways faster than the person doing 3 days a week. Schedule in your meals, right? Plan for your meals throughout the week. Maybe you're going to buy bulk of the protein things so that you're not scrambling at the last minute trying to make a meal. It's going to incorporate scheduling like a bedtime. For you to get 8 hours of sleep, you need to sleep between this time and that time, and being disciplined about that. You may want to watch another movie or watch another episode of something, or go party with some friends or whatever, but 90% of the time, you should have a fairly ideal lifestyle for yourself, right?
So for someone who's just starting their fitness journey, what do you think they typically would misunderstand about health and fitness when they start this?
Like, I think a lot of people want big results in a very short time, and sometimes you can get that with certain people, right? But generally the best change comes about in a slow and progressive way, right? Not by trying to force yourself into a box. A lot of people do things cold turkey, or they'll do a challenge for 30 days and then they stop right after, right? The real meaningful change happens slow and long-term. It's about consistency. Maybe you just do one small thing different, and 3 months later, you add something to that, right? A lot of people want to do everything now, and the best approach is often to slow down, to be a little bit cautious, be respectful of the body. If you need an extra rest day, take that. You don't need to be mean to yourself. I think that's something that a lot of people misunderstand. They go to the gym as a punishment. They eat a salad as a punishment, right? Those type of things. And it's the entirely wrong attitude. That is what self-love is,
Right. So I've got a 6-year-old, right? So how can I get him to become? He doesn't need to do too much, but like, how do you think I should go about that with a kid who's 6, right?
I've experienced this a lot with my nephews and nieces and other children. They often do so well by just accompanying an adult to exercise. Maybe they're sitting there sometimes. They're just watching and like experiencing, this is what my parent does to care for themselves. That cannot be underestimated. Like they will remember that forever, right? My mom and dad took care of themselves, right? They took care of their bodies. They took care of their minds. That will always be an impression, right? But I think naturally children want to do things with their parents, right? They want to participate in some way. So for a lot of children, that looks like doing a little bit when it's fun, right? Not like some people will try to make a child do a full workout in 1 hour and they're just having a bad time and it's, it's a struggle. We don't need to go there, right? The 6-year-old, you can just say, come and just lift some little dumbbells with me and have fun. And when you've had enough, then just sit there and play a game or read a book or whatever, right? Introducing little bits as you go, I think will get you to the point where your 10-year-old will be doing full workouts with you. And when that 10-year-old is 70, they'll still be doing full workouts. Because once you've felt that wellness, you never can go back,
Right. So then the whole idea is to make it look fun and
For us too, not just the kids. Like so many people are in the gym having a bad time, right? Or they'll get up so crabby in the morning to go for a run and see it as a self-punishment or this. It's a key to everything for us as human beings is to have fun while doing it.
how can we move from that state where like you're thinking, oh my God, like it's 6 a.m. again, I had to go back to the gym. You really don't want to do it. But how do you get to that point where it becomes a natural habit?
I think half of it is about fun. So if you're making it a very unpleasant experience for yourself, your brain is naturally going to not want you to keep doing it,
Right.
right? So if you're going to the gym at 6 a.m., that can be little things, right? Maybe you listen to a comedian on the way in those 20 minutes to the gym. Maybe you listen to your favorite songs and you sing along at the top of your voice. Maybe you listen to a motivational speech, right? You pull up YouTube and you pull up some motivational speeches for the morning. And it could be a monk speaking. It could be Arnold Schwarzenegger. It could be whoever, right? And it's something that helps you get in the right mind frame where you're ready and willing to do what's best for yourself with joy. Because we can do things that are good for us without joy, and it's not going to have nearly the impact that it would if you can just do it with enjoyment. If you can enjoy your work, you're going to be so much better at your job. Right? If you can enjoy the food you're eating and it's delicious, that's going to be amazing for you in all the ways. People that think, there's people that I tell you need to get more protein. You're not getting enough protein. They'll go home and boil chicken breasts and just eat it like that. And they have water to drink it down because it's so dry. And it's like, no, we can make this chicken breast, but we can season it. We can make it with love, make it juicy, taste good. So when you're eating that, you just want more of it. And then you're not fighting this uphill battle with yourself. You're cooperating with your brain, right? And same with exercise. Like if you're doing something that you really dislike, let's say that I get up at 6 a.m. to run and I can't stand running. Maybe I just need to find a different form of exercise that I can find joy in, right? Maybe that's lifting weights. Maybe that's doing yoga. Maybe that's going for a long walk. I think that we need to be able to work with ourselves where we're at and also be comfortable with improving over time. So even though running is a fabulous exercise, if you really dislike that, maybe you're going to start with just walking until you're like, you know what, I could take on some running, right? And just adapt.
If someone knows they need to get healthier but don't know where to start, what would you tell them?
I would say to start with the thing that feels the most accessible to you, right? For some, like you were talking about your mother, right? You said she eats pretty well. Maybe we just leave that for now, right? And the exercise is the thing you need to focus on. Start with whatever needs to be addressed, right? For some people, they're already kind of active, but their food is terrible. We're going to work on the food first and really focus on that and address the issues. It's kind of like when you go to a doctor, right? the symptoms that are the most present are the things they're going to focus on the most first, right? So if you go to the doctor and you've got vertigo, you're dizzy, and they're going to address that first. You may also have diabetes. Maybe that down the line that'll be addressed. But the thing that is the most needing of repair first should be the first focus, right? So for any person listening to this podcast, take an honest assessment of your life. What do you feel that you need to work on the most, right? I think everybody knows that answer if you ask them. For one person, that may be exercise. They're really struggling there. For one person, it's a meditation. They're so stressed out. They're trying to eat well. They're trying to be healthy, but they're having a horrible human experience because they're so stressed and anxious and depressed or whatever is going on with them. Whatever needs that attention the most, that should be focused on. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Like, none of us are designed to know how or to be capable of doing everything on our own. So if you need help in nutrition, reach out to someone who's can help you with that. Simple. If you recognize that the thing you need to improve the most is walking, then find someone that's already walking, right? And do that with them or join them or ask them for advice. If you feel you need personal training or something like that, you can always contact me. I'm available. Maybe there's someone in your city that you want to work with. But stop putting off the things that are needed for you to be your best self, right? Life is short,
Like lately, you find that there's a lot of discussion on supplementation. How important is that?
I use those things myself, right? And I recommend most of my clients to have them. Protein powder, a really good quality one, because there's a lot of junk. You got to be educated about it because they try to cover it up, especially in the US. There's, they can use alternative names for some ingredients. If it's below a certain percentage, they can leave it off the ingredients entirely, right? So I think being educated about what these ingredients are, and now it's easier than ever. Everybody has a phone. Everybody has Google, right? If you read an ingredient, let's say a common one in protein powders would be acesulfame potassium, right? It's a synthetic sweetener. If you don't know what that is, you can just type it into Google and it'll tell you all about it. There'll probably be an AI overview, right? But there's also going to be like a WebMD link, right? And you can find sources online that will give you scientifically backed evidence about the effects of all these ingredients. I think for anyone interested in supplementation, do a little bit of research, right? It's all available online. You've got to look at the harmful ingredients that are put in things sometimes and be aware of your own limitations, right? Like creatine's a good example. I recommend to most of my clients to have creatine. I'm a big believer in creatine monohydrate for overall wellness. It's great for brain health. It's good for the body. I recommend it to pretty much everybody.
Is it good for women as well?
Very good for women. Yeah, especially once they get to the middle age and beyond.
Yeah, because like there are lots of people who just think that creatine is just for guys who want to bulk up, and
yeah.
So for women who don't want to build muscle, is it something they should consider?
Yes, definitely. Still, sure. Yeah, for even women that are not exercising, right? Should be.
So it's not just a gym thing. Also,
there have been scientific studies that have shown that people that ingest creatine have a far lower incidence of Alzheimer's disease. It's got many effects. Like, look out there at some of those. It's incredible. There are lots of female health advocates that, and I can give some, things if you want to put in the description, maybe some links to some articles and things like that. But the effects are phenomenal. Other supplements that are really great to take for general health and well-being would be essential fatty acids like fish oil, right? Very important for brain health, for heart health. Sometimes immune supplements are really important. Zinc, vitamin C, if there's not enough of those things in the diet. But in general, most of your nutrition should come from your food. Like, you should be having good quality food, you know, a variety of vegetables, so you're getting different micronutrients, different vitamins and minerals. Magnesium is another one that I recommend to a lot of people. Very important micronutrient.
All right, so let's do the rapid fire set of questions, and that you have to answer really fast. So the very first one exercise everyone should be doing.
The squat.
Squats. Also,
Even body weight squats.
most underrated habit for long-term health.
Walking.
Walking. And then the next one, our biggest fitness myth.
Lifting weights makes you bulky.
One thing people overcomplicate.
Diet.
The last one, strength or mobility.
Strength or mobility?
Yeah.
I have to pick one? I say both.
So, but which one comes first?
Mobility. It's hard to get strong if you can't move in the first place.
Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and the work you're doing to help. How can people reach out to you if they want to? They've got questions, they want to personally train with you, stuff like that.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been really fun. You can find me on social media platforms, right? Instagram, Facebook, Big Shiv Productions. That's my music company. You can find me everywhere, Big Shiv Productions. I've got a website, bigshivproductions.com. I'm on Facebook as Shiva G. Meisner, and I do my personal training through that. If you can just find me online, send me a message, we'll be in touch and we'll make things happen.
Hey, if you watched this episode all the way to the end, it means you really care about reducing life's tuition. So do us a favor and like, follow, and subscribe to this channel. And we promise to keep improving and bringing you content like this. We appreciate every single one of you.